Welcome to Golden Blue, everybody, home of the college football fan. And don't forget about the checklist. Hat check, sunglasses check, Pepsi check, notes check, sources check, and thick skin is a check. And don't forget to sing gear to represent your team and yourself in my background. Send it to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina, 29657, and get yourself a shout out. On to the next video. Well, here we are. Another Friday, another weekend upon us, and another Gold and Blue Dude video. Sorry, this is not going to be a Get It Gang video. Of course, if you don't know what the Get It Gang is, it's basically a name that I came up with for a group of people that leave video ideas in the comment section of my videos. So if you think you have a good video idea, leave it in the comment section of this video, and I just might use it. Today, we're talking about our good friend, conspiracy theorist, expert, MacGyver. But it seems like he has some actual credible evidence of the trouble in the Pac-12. This is not good. This is what our good buddy MacGyver had to say about the Pac-12. Now, this could be the current offer from ESPN, the re-offer, or it could be the offer that was pulled from the table from the Pac-12 because of Disney cuts. Either way, this is not good. Pac-12 has an offer from Amazon and ESPN on the table. I gave you some details last night. Amazon deal is a 2-year deal with an option for 2 more for basically Tier 1 rights. Whoa. Amazon getting Tier 1 rights. That's not a good sign right off the bat. ESPN is a 5-year deal for Tier 2 and some Tier 3. Pac-12 would keep Pac-12 network, so at least they keep their crappy network. Yeah, that's not that big of a plus. Here's a little bit more detail of these offers. Amazon offering $100 million a year. That's $10 million per team per year. ESPN offering $100 million for some Tier 1 rights and full Tier 2, and will purchase $10 million worth of Tier 3 content yearly from Pac-12 Network to help them recoup the $50 million they owe Comcast. So ESPN is actually trying to be nice and say, hey, we'll help you recoup that $50 million that you're losing to Comcast by purchasing $10 million from the Pac-12 network every year. But that can't count towards an offer because it's just basically offsetting the loss to Comcast. So total altogether, you're looking at $20 million per team per year. That's not good. And this might be the offer that was pulled. It could actually be lower than that. But even if it's not, and this is the offer, this is bad. This is worst case scenario for the Pac-12. He says Amazon is not requiring a grant of rights, but ESPN is. Kliavkoff is still trying to leverage more money from ESPN, but they are so far apart, allegedly almost $200 million per year. So he's trying to get $40 million per team per year. That some at ESPN have told people in the Big 12 that Kliavkoff seems to be either desperate or clueless. I would say both. Kliavkoff is trying to get $40 million per team per year, and he's looking at $20 million per team per year, and that includes ESPN and Amazon. This is bad. So let's take a look at the checklist for the Pac-12's options as far as the TV deal. Fox, TNT, CBS, NBC, Apple TV, Amazon, yes, they are going to get an Amazon deal worth $100 million a year. That's not a good deal, especially if that's for Tier 1 rights. Yikes. That's a 2-year deal for an option of 2 more years. Very, very short-term deal for the Pac-12. And then finally, ESPN, yes, they do have the check, but it's going to be a very small offer. It might be that $100 million per year, or that might be the deal that was pulled, and it could be even lower than that. Either way, bad news for the Pac-12. The issues for the Pac-12 have stacked up. The first thing is the Big 12 beat the Pac-12 to the punch. There was one decent deal left on the table, and it was going to go to either the Pac-12 or the Big 12. The Pac-12's like, no, we're going to take on bidders because we think we're going to get even more money than that. Big 12's like, nope, give us the deal, we'll take it. And that deal was taken off the table, and the Pac-12 thought they were in good shape because they thought they were going to get more than that. Nope, not so much. Next thing is Pac-12 is running out of options. I just went through the checklist. The Pac-12 members released a desperate-looking Unity video, kind of reminiscent of what the Big East did right before it imploded. On top of that, some Pac-12 schools are actually mad. Why? Because the best TV windows are almost gone. They're on the bottom of the barrel. That's why ESPN is saying Kliavkoff is either desperate or clueless because he has no leverage. He's trying to leverage money out of ESPN, and there's just no leverage there. These are the negative impacts for potential bidders for the Pac-12, things that have already happened. Well, they found out that they owed Comcast $50 million because of a bookkeeping issue. Yeah, that's a major red flag. Disney is laying off 7,000 employees. That's why ESPN pulled the TV deal. Now, the deal that I just mentioned, that might be the deal after the deal they pulled, or it might be the deal that's actually being pulled. On top of that, Amazon laid off 6% of their workforce. And Google's Alphabet cut 12,000 jobs. A lot of negative impacts on the potential bidders for the Pac-12. So here's what Sports Illustrated and most college football YouTubers are thinking the destinations for these Pac-12 teams will be. Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, aka the Four Corners, aka the 3/4 of the Four Corners, as I like to call them, going to the Big 12. They're not going to go to the Big 10. They're not going to go to the SEC. They're not going to go to the ACC. So if those 4 teams do leave the Pac-12, they will be going to the Big 12. And that will make the Big 12 the first conference that will cover every time zone. So they will have that check beside their name. Now for Oregon and Washington, maybe they'll get an offer from the Big 10 in the future, but they might also have to settle for the Big 12. But for the Four Corners, I think it would be the Big 12. Oregon and Washington, it just depends on if the Big 10 offers them. Otherwise, they could also be heading for the Big 12 because they're not going to stay for this type of TV deal. So what could the Pac-12 look like in the future? Well, that leaves Cal, Stanford, Washington State, and Oregon State. We already know that the Pac-12 is interested in SMU and San Diego State, and they are expected to invite them and announce that they are the new members of the Pac-12. So you might as well mark down San Diego State and SMU. But on top of that, the 2 other teams they must look at are Boise State and Fresno State. Fresno State is a no-brainer. No-brainer. You have to get Fresno State. It recoups some of those eyeballs that you're losing in California. Doesn't recoup all of them, but it helps soften the blow, and it would give a bigger footprint in the state of California. You'd have 4 teams in the state of California again. You'd have Cal, Stanford, San Diego State, and Fresno State. And then the last team, Boise State. And this is not looking past 8 members. Once we look past 8 members, then you could be talking about a Rice, a Tulane, and maybe some other members from the Mountain West. But I think the next step after you get SMU and San Diego State has to be Fresno State and Boise State. Listen, Boise State, they're renovating their facilities. They're upgrading their stadium to 40,000, which is bigger than Oregon State and Washington State. You're going to have to lower your standards on the academics if you want to survive. And that's not a bad-looking Pac-12 at 8 members. That gives you stability. That gives you a foundation to where you can look at other members in the future. But as of right now, at this point in time, the Pac-12 as we know it, in severe danger. It might be over. The Pac-12 as we know it might be over. That doesn't mean they won't survive. I mean, even with these 8 members, the Pac-12 technically survives. But if you look at it and compare it to the Pac-12 that we knew just a couple years ago, or even 1 year ago, or even now before USC and UCLA leave, it is completely different. So yes, I would say that the Pac-12 as we know it right now is done. However, they could still have a future as a Power 5 conference. Remember, the 12-team playoff expansion guarantees that all Power 5 conference champions will make it to the playoffs. So at least there's still a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for the Pac-12. But they are about to lose a lot of major members to the Big 10 and the Big 12. So y'all know in the comment section, number 1, do you think the Pac-12 can get a better deal than what's on the table right now? Or maybe that deal was pulled and it's going to be even lower. Do you think they can come anywhere close to what George Kliavkoff is wanting, and that's $40 million per team per year? Number 2, do you agree with me? Do you think this solidifies that the Pac-12 will be losing more members in the next 2 to 5 years, perhaps sooner? And finally, number 3, once they add SMU and San Diego State, do you think they must add Fresno State and Boise State next before they look on to future potential members, like a Rice or a Tulane? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.